I didn't mean to stop at the motel that night. If I'm being honest, I didn't even mean to take that road. The narrow, unlit stretch of asphalt that vanished into the foothills like it had given up being a road halfway through its existence. But my GPS glitched, froze, then redirected me with a calm voice that felt almost insistent. Turn left. I still don't know why I listened. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the storm building behind me. Or maybe, and this is something I've only recently started admitting, some part of me sensed that I was being led. The first strange thing I noticed was the neon sign. It flickered through the trees long before I reached it, a washed-out glow of vacancy struggling against the darkness like an old memory that didn't want to be forgotten. No other buildings, no rest stops, no cars, just that sign, buzzing like it was whispering under its breath. I slowed down without deciding to. The gravel lot appeared next, flooded with silver moonlight, but the motel itself, it looked dead. Every window dark, paint peeled to the bone, front desk door hanging slightly open as if someone had left in a hurry years ago. I should have kept driving. I keep telling myself that. But the storm finally broke, the first raindrops pelting my windshield like thrown pebbles, and I told myself I'd just take shelter for an hour, just long enough to wait out the worst of it. When I stepped out of the car, the air felt strangely warm, warmer than the night, warmer than the rain, like the motel itself was exhaling. I paused, hand on the car door, and listened. Nothing. Not silence. Absence. No insects, no wind, no distant road noise, just that faint electrical hum from the sign. I walked toward the front office. The floorboards creaked under my weight, but not in the way old wood usually does. It felt more like the building was reacting to me. A subtle adjustment, a shift, like someone turning over in bed. I froze again. Hello? My voice felt small, devoured instantly by the stillness. No answer. I stepped inside. The front office was exactly what you'd expect from a building left behind by time. A thin layer of dust, an unplugged computer, a cracked clock frozen at 2:14, and a stack of yellowed brochures advertising places I suspected didn't exist anymore. Except one thing was wrong. The guest book. It sat open on the counter, pristine compared to everything else, a pen resting diagonally across the page. The last entry was written in crisp, fresh ink, the kind that glistens before it dries. And it was my name. Not just my name, my full name, written in handwriting eerily similar to mine but not quite identical. As if someone had watched me write 1,000 times and learned just enough to imitate me. I stared at the entry, my breath rising and falling like I was trying not to drown. Why would anyone? Checking in. The voice came from behind me, soft, calm, and so quiet I might have imagined it if it hadn't carried that slight vibration of someone standing close. I spun around so fast I nearly knocked over the guest book. No one was there, just the dim lobby, empty and breathless. But the door to the motel hallway, the one leading to the rooms, was now open, wide open. It hadn't been before. And the lights were on. A low, warm amber glow stretched down the corridor like a welcome gesture or a lure. I don't know why my first instinct wasn't to run. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe the storm. Maybe curiosity is stronger than survival instinct when you're too tired to think. Or maybe, and this possibility haunts me, maybe some part of me recognized that hallway. I stepped toward it. The carpet was strangely clean. The air smelled faintly like cedar and something floral, something nostalgic but impossible to place. A childhood scent? A forgotten memory? Halfway down the hall, a door clicked. Room 6. Just a small sound, but in the suffocating quiet it felt deliberate, intentional. The door eased open by an inch, then another inch, until it formed a thin crescent of darkness. I whispered to myself, "This is stupid," but my feet moved anyway. When I pushed the door open, the lights inside flickered on instantly. Not violently, not like faulty wiring, more like they were responding to me, as if they had been waiting. The room was surprisingly neat. Bed made, curtains drawn, a small lamp glowing softly on the nightstand. And on the dresser, placed neatly in the center as though prepared minutes ago, a room key. Brass. Heavy. Attached to a wooden tag branded with a large burned-in 6. My throat tightened. I hadn't seen this key before, and yet something in me whispered that I had, that I'd held it, that I'd slept in this room, that this room wasn't new to me at all. The thought made no sense, and the next sensation made even less. I felt watched. Not from behind, not from the closet, not from the bathroom, from inside the room, as if the air itself had awareness. I stepped back, ready to leave, ready to pretend none of this had happened. But the storm outside howled suddenly, a violent gust that rattled the window and made the entire building shudder. The wind felt like a warning or a barrier, something urging me not to go back out into the night. I took a slow breath, and then I noticed it. The nightstand drawer. It was slightly open. Inside, something glinted. I hesitated, but I reached for it. My fingers brushed fabric, soft, familiar, and I pulled out a folded piece of cloth. A handkerchief, white, embroidered, with my initials, my full initials, in a stitching style I hadn't used since I was a child, the way my grandmother taught me during long summers, long before she passed. I dropped it, stumbling backward until I hit the wall. The air felt colder, heavier. "I've never been here," I whispered to the empty room. But when I looked at the bed, I saw something that made my blood thrum in my ears. There was an indentation in the pillow, as if someone had been lying there, recently, as if someone my size had rested their head, as if I had rested my head. My heartbeat hammered. I reached for the door, but the moment my fingers touched the handle, the lamp shut off. Not flickered, not dimmed, turned off, intentionally, like someone hitting a switch. Darkness swallowed the room, and in that darkness, I heard it. Barely a whisper. "You checked in hours ago." I didn't breathe for several seconds. Not because I forgot how, but because something deep in my instincts told me not to. The darkness around me wasn't simply the absence of light. It felt occupied, as if the room had inhaled with me and was waiting for the next exhale. I lifted a trembling hand and touched the wall behind me, grounding myself. My fingers found the light switch, and I flicked it upward. Nothing happened. The lamp stayed off. The room stayed dark. The air stayed aware. I swallowed hard. "I'm leaving," I whispered, to myself, to the room, to whoever's breath had ghosted through that whisper. I wasn't sure. I reached again for the doorknob. When my skin brushed the cold metal, the lamp snapped back on. Bright, immediate, like someone had been watching my movements and decided to respond. I yanked the door open and stumbled into the hallway. The corridor lights flickered once, in a slow wave, like a ripple passing through the building, then steadied. I turned to walk toward the exit. I had only taken 2 steps when something made me stop. Footprints. Not visible ones. I didn't see any dusty marks or wet shoe prints. I heard them. Soft, measured. Behind me. Inside room 6. Walking toward the doorway. I didn't want to look, and I also couldn't stop myself. I turned my head slowly. The room was empty, completely still. But something was different. The curtains were open. I hadn't touched them. The window beyond revealed the storm outside, sheets of rain, trees bending violently, lightning cracking in the distance like brief white fractures in the sky. But the reflection in the glass, the reflection was not what it should have been. I should have seen myself in the glass, standing in the hallway just outside the room, but I wasn't there. Instead, the window showed the room as fully lit, but empty, with the bed covers slightly pulled back, as if someone invisible had just climbed out. My breath caught. I stepped backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm not doing this." I forced myself away from the door and hurried down the hallway. Halfway down, I passed a wall-mounted frame, a faded evacuation map of the motel. It was smeared with age, water-damaged, barely readable, but enough remained visible to show that the building was shaped like a horseshoe. My room, room 6, sat exactly at the curvature, the bend. I kept moving. The hallway ended at a glass door leading outside to the parking lot. I could see my car, still there, still safe-looking, even through the rain. But when I pushed the door, it didn't budge. Locked. Not from the handle. It should have opened easily, but from something unseen, something deeper, like the entire frame had fused. I pushed harder. Nothing. I stepped back, raised my elbow, tried to slam it into the glass. The glass didn't even tremble. It was as if I'd hit something far more solid than a window, something unbreakable. My pulse pounded in my ears. A moment later, a warm breath, indistinguishably human, brushed my right shoulder. "I told you, you checked in hours ago." This time, the voice wasn't behind me. It was beside me. Close enough that I could feel the faint displacement of air, close enough that I could imagine a figure leaning in, speaking directly into my ear. But there was no one there. I lurched forward, nearly slipping on the polished floor, turning wildly, scanning the empty hallway. My heartbeat was frantic, too fast to keep track of. "I'm leaving," I shouted. The sound hit the walls and died instantly, swallowed before it could echo. Then the overhead lights flickered. Once, twice, a slow pulse. And when they steadied, I froze. Something new had appeared. On the floor, just a few feet from me, lay a key. Not the room key from earlier, that one was still back in room 6, but another one, smaller, silver, dangling from a brittle paper tag. I kneeled carefully. The tag was stained, fragile, as if it would crumble if I pressed too hard. Someone had written on it in neat block letters, "Staff storage, basement." A basement? I hadn't seen any stairs. I held the key in my palm, hesitating. Logic screamed at me not to go deeper into a building that already felt alive in the worst way. But the locked door behind me meant I wasn't leaving until something changed. And whatever this place was, whatever it wanted, it was guiding me. Left or right wasn't a choice. The hallway only went back toward the lobby, so I walked, slowly, attentively. As I approached the lobby again, I noticed something different. The guest book. It was no longer open to the page with my name. Someone had flipped it to the very front. A blank page. Start of the log. No names, no dates. Empty, as if no one had ever stayed here. But the pen had moved. It now sat in the dead center of the page, waiting, inviting, expecting. No, I murmured, not touching that. I stepped around the counter. My eyes scanned the room, and then I saw it. A narrow door set into the wall behind the desk, so flush that I'd missed it before. It had no sign, no knob, just a barely visible indentation where it met the frame. I pressed my hand against it. It swung inward easily. A staircase descended into darkness. Cold air wafted up, stale, unused, but carrying the faintest whiff of something I couldn't name, something strangely familiar. I took a deep breath, clutched the basement key tighter, and whispered, "Just look, just see what's down there." The stairs creaked under my weight. One step, then another. Halfway down, the door behind me clicked shut. The sound echoed through the stairwell, loud enough to reverberate in my bones. I froze, and in the silence that followed, I heard something faint below me. Not movement, not breathing, not footsteps. A voice, soft, distant, almost like a whisper carried by memory. A voice I hadn't heard since childhood. A voice I knew. A voice I missed. My grandmother. "Come along, dear, you're safe." My knees nearly buckled. She'd been gone for years. And yet, the voice drifted upward again, warm and coaxing. "Come along now, you've been gone a very long time." For a moment I stood frozen on the steps, unsure whether fear or longing held me in place. The air from the basement was colder than the rest of the motel, not chilled like winter, but cold in a way that reminded me of childhood pantries, of places where sunlight rarely touched. My grandmother's voice echoed again, faint but undeniably real. "Come along now." Something inside my chest tightened, not panic, but a strange ache. She used to say that exact phrase every time she coaxed me out from hiding spots during thunderstorms. I'd crawl under tables, behind curtains, inside closets. She always found me, always knew where I was. It hit me slowly, unsettlingly. She had said those words only to me. I took another hesitant step downward, my fingers brushing the wall for balance. The basement lights flickered on abruptly. Not bright, just a single yellow bulb swinging gently from a cord, casting long, stretching shadows that crawled over the walls like living things. Dust floated through the light in thick particles, the air stale enough to taste. The bottom of the staircase opened into a narrow hallway lined with doors, each one identical. Flaking white paint, brass handles, small rectangular signs once labeled, now blank. I stepped off the last stair and felt the temperature dip further. The air carried that same scent I'd noticed earlier, something floral, faint yet persistent, like lily of the valley mixed with cedar. A scent I had known so well that I felt myself drifting into memory without meaning to. My grandmother kept sachets of that scent in every drawer of her house. My pulse quickened. I whispered, "This doesn't make sense." My voice sounded strange in the enclosed space, tight, dampened, swallowed by the walls. As I walked deeper, I tried each door handle. All locked, every single one. Except the last door on the left. I didn't even have to turn the knob. The door eased open at my touch, a slow yielding movement, as though someone on the other side had been holding it closed and finally decided to let me in. The room beyond was small and rectangular, lined with shelves of old linens, cleaning supplies, and boxes, the kind of storage closet motels use for extra blankets. but something sat directly in the center of the floor. A wooden crate, old, splintered, the top half ajar. I crouched beside it. Inside lay an assortment of objects, none of them extraordinary on their own, and yet each one made my scalp prickle with recognition. A faded blue yo-yo, a cracked plastic snow globe, a single red mitten, a chipped mug with a cartoon dog. I knew these items. Not today, not recently, but from a lifetime ago. My childhood. Things I had lost, misplaced, thought forgotten. Where, I breathed, reaching for the snow globe, where did these come from? My hand hovered above it, but froze when I noticed something else beneath the objects. A photograph, face down. I picked it up carefully and turned it over. My stomach dropped. It was me. A picture of me as a child, maybe 7 years old, standing in a motel hallway. The walls looked exactly like the hallway upstairs. Same carpet pattern, same lamp sconces. Only I had never been here. Not once, not in my memory. I stared at the photo, heart racing. Something else was off. In the picture, I wasn't alone. A hand rested on my shoulder, a gentle, steadying gesture, but the person attached to it was cut off by the frame. Just a sleeve visible. Wool, light blue, a color my grandmother used to wear. I felt the cold air shift behind me. A soft creak, like someone stepping across the floor. I spun around fast. The hallway behind me was empty, but the door to the storage room began to close slowly. Not with force, with care, deliberate. I lunged forward and caught it with my hand just before it shut fully. The wood pressed against my palm as though another hand were on the other side, pushing gently. "Stop," I whispered. My voice cracked. The pressure eased. The door stayed open. My breath shook. "Why are you doing this?" I asked louder this time, speaking into the hallway. Silence. Then, a soft click. Another door, one I hadn't noticed until now, stood at the far end of the basement hallway. A metal door, smoother than the others, newer, with no handle, just a keyhole. The key in my pocket felt suddenly warm. No, hot, as if responding to the door. I pulled it out. The small silver key labeled Staff Storage Basement now radiated a faint heat across my skin. Every part of me knew this was a bad idea. Every part of me moved anyway. When I reached the metal door, I hesitated long enough for one trembling breath, then slid the key into the lock. The key fit perfectly. A soft click echoed. The door opened inward silently. Inside was a tiny room, a single chair, a single table, a single object resting on that table. A rotary phone, black, old, silent. A small yellow sticky note was stuck to its base. 3 words, "Answer when it rings." The moment my eyes finished reading the note, the phone rang. Sharp, shrill, cutting through the stillness like a blade. I jumped back, nearly hitting the wall. The phone rang again and again. Each ring echoed strangely, not metallic, not mechanical, but almost human, as if someone far away were whispering each chime directly into my ear. I swallowed, my throat tight. I shouldn't answer it. I had to answer it. I reached out, lifted the receiver slowly to my ear. At first, there was only static. Then, gradually woven within it, breathing, soft, uneven, close. A voice broke through the static, fragile, trembling, familiar in a way that my chest ached. "Why did you leave me there?" My blood ran cold. It was my voice as a child. For several heartbeats, I couldn't breathe. The voice on the phone, thin, quivering, undeniably young, echoed in the narrow room like it belonged to a place that had been waiting for decades to finally speak. "Why did you leave me there?" The question repeated itself, softer this time, drifting through static like a memory trying to break through fog. I didn't," I whispered. "I don't understand. I never—" The line hissed, crackled, then steadied. My child voice came again, but now it sounded closer, less distant, as though the person speaking could be standing right behind me. "You promised," it said. "You said you wouldn't run." My knees almost gave out. Promised? Run? None of this made sense. I forced myself to swallow, the receiver trembling against my ear. "Who are you?" A soft exhale, a tired, too familiar sigh drifted from the other end. "I'm you," the voice said simply. Something inside my chest clenched, a tight, painful memory trying to form but not quite coming together. "I'm you," the voice repeated. "The part you forgot." I lowered the receiver slightly, staring at the wall, my pulse hammering. Forgot? This isn't real. This motel isn't. This isn't. The phone clicked. Not a hang-up, a shift. And then a second voice broke through, warm, gentle, unmistakably hers. My grandmother. "Darling, don't be frightened." My breath shattered into uneven pieces. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles ached. "Grandma?" she whispered. "Yes." The word came wrapped in warmth, comfort, familiar safety. But there was sadness, too, a sorrow like something long overdue. "You've been carrying this alone for so long, far too long." My eyes burned. What? What carrying? A pause, just long enough for fear to settle in my stomach. Then she spoke again. "Every storm leaves an echo, sweetheart, even ones you can't remember." A childhood image flickered in my mind, rain pounding against the roof, the sound of dishes rattling, a car door slamming, a voice raised in anger of fear. But the memory collapsed the moment I tried to focus on it. The static deepened, and my child voice returned, closer now, urgent. "You ran," it said. "You left me in the hallway." I never started, but another memory flickered. A hallway, a door, the smell of cedar, a hand slipping out of mine, my own feet running. I shook my head hard. "No," I whispered, pressing my free hand against my eyes. "I don't remember." "That's why you came back," the child voice said. "I didn't come here on purpose." The line went silent. The bulb above me flickered. Something moved in the hallway outside the storage room. Not footsteps, but more like a subtle shift in the air, a presence leaning closer to the doorway. Then my grandmother's voice returned, softer now. "Listen carefully, dear. The motel didn't appear on your route by mistake." I lowered the receiver. "What?" "This place knows you," she said. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder, like the walls were listening. "But how? Why?" My grandmother's voice exhaled into the static. "Because you left a part of yourself here," she said, "and it's been waiting." My grip loosened involuntarily, and the receiver clattered back onto the cradle with a soft final click. In the silence that followed, the air seemed to throb, heavy, expectant. I stepped backward out of the tiny room, heart pounding. The basement hallway felt different now, dimmer, more alive, like the shadows had shifted positions while I was on the phone. The metal door, the one I'd unlocked, slowly swung shut behind me, sealing off the room. A faint echo of my grandmother's voice drifted from the darkened seam where the door had closed. Find the boy. The back of my neck prickled. Find the boy? The boy was... I didn't finish the thought, because the lights above me began to flicker rhythmically, guiding my eyes down the hallway towards the stairs, towards the upper floor, towards the rooms. Room 6. My room. No, the boy's room. My legs felt numb as I climbed the steps one by one, emerging into the lobby again. The air upstairs smelled sharper, wetter, like the storm had seeped into the building. But something else had changed. The guest book on the desk was open again. Not to the first page, not to the page with my fresh signature, to the middle. A page where a single name was written. The boy. Checked in. 2:14 a.m. The same time the clock on the wall had been frozen to. I reached out with shaking fingers and touched the paper. It felt warm. Behind me, the hallway lights flickered on, one after another, leading back towards room 6, inviting me or summoning me. My breath caught when I reached my doorway, because now the door was open, wide open, and inside, sitting on the foot of the bed, with small legs dangling just above the floor, was a child, facing away from me, head bowed slightly, wearing a light blue sweater, the same one I wore in the photograph from the crate. My voice was barely a whisper. That's not possible. The child's head lifted a fraction, not turning yet, just enough to show he'd heard me. "Why did you leave me?" he asked softly, in the same voice I'd heard through the phone. I stepped into the room, despite every instinct screaming at me not to. "I didn't leave you. I don't remember. I don't remember any of this." He swung his legs once, restless, like a child waiting too long. "You forgot me," he said. A lump formed in my throat. "I didn't mean to." He finally turned his head just enough for me to see his profile. Pale, small, eyes darkened by something deeper than shadow. "You promised you'd come back," he murmured. "And you never did."
The air shifted. Not a breeze, more like the pressure in the room changed, the way it does right before storm or before someone says something that can't be taken back. I froze. Then I heard it, a soft, hollow thump from inside the wall. Not the door, not the floorboards, inside the wall. Another thump, slow, deliberate, almost cautious. I pressed my ear against the peeling wallpaper. It was cold, far colder than the rest of the room. I waited. Thump. And then, after a trembling pause, 6. A whisper. A voice so faint I almost convinced myself it was a vent, or plumbing, or imagination. But no, it sounded like someone pressing their lips to the wall from the other side. I shot back from the wall, stumbling into the middle of the room. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Hello?" I said, though I didn't know why. Instinct, maybe, or denial. Silence. Then the whisper came again, clearer this time, like breath against my ear, even though I was standing several feet away. "You came back." I felt every muscle in my body lock. Back? I had never been here, not once in my life. "I think you're confused," I said, my voice shaking more than I wanted to admit. "I've never—" A soft chuckle cut me off. Not mocking, not threatening, just sad. "You don't remember room 6? My stomach dropped. I backed toward the door, grabbed the cold metal handle, and twisted. It didn't move. I twisted harder, yanked and pulled with both hands until my shoulder stiffened in pain. The door didn't even rattle, as if it had been welded to the frame. Behind me, the voice murmured, "You always try the door first." My skin prickled. "Who are you?" A pause, longer this time. A breath, shaky, afraid. "I'm the one who never left." The room dimmed suddenly, like a cloud had passed over the sun. But when I looked at the window, the sky was as bright as it had been moments earlier. Nothing outside changed, only the room. The corners darkened first, then the floor, then the ceiling, like shadows were soaking into the walls, pulling the light inward. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no!" I turned away from the door and bolted for the bathroom. If I could break a window, a mirror, anything. But the second my foot crossed the threshold, I stopped dead. The mirror above the sink wasn't reflecting me. It reflected the same bathroom, same layout, same floor, same cracked tiles, but empty. Completely empty. No me, no door behind me, just an unoccupied room flickering under an invisible light. My breath hitched, but then something else moved in the mirror, behind where my reflection should have been. A figure, tall, shaking, breathing heavily like every inhale hurt. I stumbled back into room 6, slamming into the wall. My pulse thundered in my ears. The mirror stayed visible from where I stood, and the figure in the mirror leaned closer, head twitching with each step. Not toward the sink, toward the place where I should have been standing. The whisper behind me came again, desperate now. "Please, don't watch it. Whatever you do, don't watch it." But I couldn't move. The figure in the mirror lifted its head with slow, unnatural stiffness and stared directly at me, even though I wasn't in his world. Its eyes were hollow, not empty, hollow, as if carved out. The voice behind me broke, quietly pleading, "Please, don't let it see you again." A cold spike went through my spine. "Again?" I whispered. The figure in the mirror put a hand on the glass, on my side of the mirror, and the glass began to bend. Not break, not crack, bend, like the surface was softening, melting, becoming thin enough for something to push through. The voice behind me screamed, "Run!" I didn't think. I just moved. I lunged away from the bathroom as the mirror's surface stretched outward, bulging like a balloon about to pop. Something inside it pressed against the thinning barrier, fingers first, long and trembling, pushing through a sheet of liquid glass. The room pulsed with a low, bone-deep vibration, like the walls themselves were humming. Behind me, the whisper voice was no longer a whisper. "Don't let it out." I stumbled toward the window, the only direction I hadn't tried yet. I grabbed the frame and yanked upward. It didn't budge. I slammed my palm against it again and again until my skin stung. The hum deepened. A wet, elastic snap cracked through the air. I froze. The mirror was no longer bending. It was pouring. A dark, viscous liquid seeped from the edges of the glass, spreading across the sink and dripping onto the tiled floor. And from within it, that figure, the one with hollow, carved eyes, was forcing its way through, its body slipping from the warped reflection like something being birthed into the room. I stumbled backward until my spine hit the far wall. My legs threatened to give out. "Please," I rasped, voice shaking, not even knowing who I was begging. The whisper answered, "Don't look at it. Don't let it see your face. Don't let it know it's you." My breath caught. "Why? What does it want?" A shuddering exhale replied, "It wants the one who stayed. The one who stayed. The one who never left. The one it thought I was." The figure in the bathroom fully emerged now, dripping black liquid that sizzled where it hit the floor. Its limbs were wrong, bent at angles that didn't make sense, trembling violently as though simply existing hurt it. It turned its head, slow and heavy, scanning the room with methodical sweeps. looking for me, looking for whoever it expected to find here. I pressed both hands over my mouth to stifle my breathing. The figure stood a step. The tiles beneath its feet cracked. Another step. Closer. Its hollow eyes flicked toward the bed, toward the door, toward the table. It scanned everything except the one place I stood frozen, as though I simply wasn't visible to it. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe the whisper was right. Maybe it didn't recognize me. Maybe. The figure's head snapped toward the wall, the same wall the whisper came from. The whisper gasped, a sound of sudden terror. No, it hears me. The figure lurched toward the wall, dragging one leg behind it. A horrible grinding sound echoed with each step, like bones scraping tile. It raised a hand, pressed its palm flat against the wallpaper, right where the whisper had spoken from. And then, in a voice like cracking ice, it whispered back, "Found you." The wall shuddered. The whisper cried out, a raw, agonized sound that made my stomach twist. "Stop!" I yelled, before I even realized I was speaking. "Stop, please!" The figure froze. Its trembling stopped instantly. It turned its head toward me, slow, mechanical, precise. Those hollow eyes locked on mine, and for the first time, I felt it recognize me. The whisper behind the wall breathed a single horrified word, "Run." But the figure stepped toward me, one broken step, another, and another, until it stood only a few feet away, close enough that I could hear something shifting inside it, like liquid sloshing in empty cavities. It reached out, not violently, not fast, slowly, gently, almost tenderly. "You came back," it said. Its voice wasn't hollow this time. It sounded like me. For a moment, the room disappeared, or maybe my mind did. Hearing my own voice echo from that thing's cracked, trembling form did something to me I can't fully describe. It felt like a hook slipping under the ribs of my identity and tugging hard. My voice, but empty, flattened, stripped of everything human. "You," I whispered, my throat tight. "What are you?" The figure tilted its head, an oddly delicate, almost curious motion, as if learning how to mimic emotion. "I'm what you left behind." A pulse of nausea rolled through me. "I didn't leave anything behind," I said, though even as I said it, something inside me twitched, a memory where the hint of one shifted just out of reach. The figure stepped closer. I pressed back against the wall until my spine ached. My breath came shallow and fast. The whisper behind the wallpaper was silent now, holding itself in tight. The figure raised its hand toward my face. Not clawing, not attacking, just reaching. "I waited," it said. Its voice flickered, shifting between mine and something older, something worn thin. "Waited while the clocks stopped, while the road unspooled, while the others faded. You promised you would stay." My pulse hammered in my ears. "I've never been here before. I don't even know this place." The figure leaned closer, and for the first time I could see that its eyes weren't empty holes. They were reflections, hollow mirrors. And in them I didn't see my face. I saw the motel room, the bed, the table, the hallway behind me. No me. I wasn't in its reflection. Its voice thinned to a trembling whisper. "You told me we would leave together. You told me they couldn't keep us here. You told me—" It stopped, frozen, like a puppet with the strings suddenly dropped. Then it turned its head, slowly, toward the wall where the whisper used to be. Its body shook, glitching, twitching. "They hid you. buried you in the walls, locked you in the hours we lost. A faint, muffled cry rose from inside the wall, the same voice that had warned me, now straining. "Don't let it take you," the whisper pleaded. "Don't let it rewrite you." Rewrite. Something cold braided itself through my spine. "What does that mean?" I asked the wall, my voice cracking. "What does it want to rewrite?" The figure turned back toward me, stepping so close that its forehead nearly touched mine. "Your place," it said. A jolt of instinct burned through me. No, whatever this thing was, whatever it believed I'd promised, it wanted me to replace something, someone. It wanted me to step into a role I didn't even understand. "I'm not the one you're looking for," I whispered. "I'm not—" The figure's hand shot out, not violently, but with sudden, terrifying precision. Its fingers hovered just above my chest, trembling hard as though held back by some invisible boundary. "I carried your hours," it said. "The ones you left, the ones that rotted. Let me give them back." The whisper's voice sharpened with raw panic. "Move!" I jerked to the side on instinct. The figure's hand plunged forward. Its fingers hit the wall right where I had been standing a moment earlier. A crack shot across the wallpaper. A sound like a slow, deep exhale seeped from somewhere inside the building. The figure froze again, its arm embedded in the wall up to the wrist. The whisper gasped. It wasn't a painful sound this time. It was a realization. "It's stuck," the whisper breathed. "This is your chance. You have to leave, right now, before it learns how to pull itself free." My legs moved before my mind caught up. I sprinted toward the door. The knob was cold, bone cold, but it turned. The hallway outside was dark, the overhead lights sputtering like dying fireflies. I crossed the threshold and stopped, dead, because standing in the hallway was something I had seen only once before, the tall, unmoving shape of the motel owner, except this time his eyes weren't blank. They were filled with something like sorrow, and he spoke for the first time, his voice rough and thin. "You checked in, but you're not the one who checked out." He stepped aside, motioning for me to run. But behind me, the figure inside the bathroom let out a sound I will never forget. A long, shuddering inhale, like something waking up, like something remembering it had lungs. The whisper behind the wall screamed, "Go!" So I ran. I ran down the hallway, past flickering lights, past doors that rattled as though fists were pounding from the other side, past a window that showed nothing but endless night. I didn't look back, not even when I heard the mirror creature tearing itself free, not even when its footsteps, heavy and broken, began to chase me down the corridor, not even when the motel owner whispered after me, "You must not let it touch you again." I hit the stairs, leapt down them 2 at a time, burst into the lobby. The front desk bell was ringing on its own, fast, frantic, urgent. Outside, the door swung open as if pushed by a gust of wind. Cold night air rushed in. Freedom. I sprinted for it, but just as I crossed the threshold, a hand grabbed my shoulder. Soft, almost gentle, but unmistakably there. I froze, because the voice behind me wasn't the figure's. It wasn't the whispers. It wasn't the motel owner's. It was my own. "You forgot your key."
I didn't want to turn around. Every instinct in my body, every animal, ancient, wordless part of me begged me not to turn. But I did, slowly, as if any sudden movement might break reality. The hand on my shoulder remained gentle, almost polite. When I faced the person behind me, I expected the hollow-eyed figure or some twisted reflection. But no, it was me. Perfectly me.
No cracks, no trembling joints, no warping mirror sheen. I stood there in the doorway of the motel lobby, staring into my own face, alive, whole, breathing, dressed in my clothes, though slightly rumpled, hair exactly like mine, but messier, as if I'd just woken from a long sleep. And in there, my hand, was a motel key. Room 6. Here, my double said, extending it toward me with a gentle smile I'd never seen myself wear. You drop this. The lobby lights flickered. A long, low groan rolled through the building, like wood beams shifting under immense weight. I felt the air become thicker, charged, as if the motel itself was holding its breath. My double glanced around, then leaned closer. You shouldn't run out into the dark without it, they whispered, almost warmly. You know what happens when you leave without closing your hour. My chest tightened painfully. My voice had no strength when it came out. What are you? My double smile widened, soft, sympathetic, almost pitying. I'm who you were supposed to be. A cold wave crept through my limbs. No, I whispered. I don't know you. I don't remember. That's because you threw it away, they murmured. The hour you abandoned, the moment you promised you'd stay, the minute you decided to forget what happened here. The whisper in the walls trembled back to life, barely audible, like someone speaking from underwater. Don't accept anything from it. Not the key, not the memory, not the hour. My double straightened slowly, still holding out the key. You hear it again, don't you? They asked softly. The one in the walls? The one who broke the loop? I swallowed hard. What loop? Instead of answering, they tilted their heads slightly and asked in my own voice, Why did you come back tonight, after all these years? The answer hit me before I could form it. A dream. Not a nightmare. A pull. The same exit sign glowing in my sleep. The same motel room door slightly ajar. The same whisper calling my name from behind peeling wallpaper. I didn't choose to come, I whispered. I felt drawn. My double nodded gently. Because it finally opened. What opened? I asked. The hour, they said. Your unfinished hour. I shook my head. I don't remember any hour. I don't remember ever being here. You do, my double said, stepping closer, eyes softening with eerie kindness. Just not in this version. The lobby lights dimmed around us, shadows thickening along the walls like spilled ink. Behind me, I heard slow, dragging footsteps approaching down the hall, the mirror figure pulling itself free and searching for me again. My double heard it too. Their expression changed, not fear, but annoyance. They always make it worse, they muttered under their breath. The ones who decay. They don't understand timelines. They don't understand you. My heart thundered. What does it want? It wants to give you back everything you lost, but it can't, because those hours aren't yours anymore. They extended the key farther, urging it toward my hand. This is yours. I didn't move. They smiled with that unsettling, gentle patience. You can't leave without it. The whisper hissed urgently. Don't touch the key. My double smile twitched, cracking at the edges for the first time. Oh, they murmured quietly. So it told you. What told me? That it's the one who stayed. The whisper let out a raw, pained sound like a breath caught on a sob. My head spun. I don't understand, I said. One of you says I stayed. One of you says they stayed. I didn't know how to finish the sentence. My double stepped closer, lowering their voice until it was nearly tender. You left, they whispered. You escaped. You forgot everything to save yourself.
You walked out and never looked back." Their eyes narrowed with something like emotion. Not anger, something more wounded. "So someone had to stay in your place." I felt the air leave my lungs. "And that someone," I whispered, "was the whisper in the walls." My double smiled, sadly. "I always knew you'd understand." The footsteps behind me grew louder, breaking, dragging, a twisted body moving with terrible determination. I had seconds. "Take your key," my double whispered. "Close your hour. Go back to who you were." The whisper behind the wallpaper let out a raw, pleading cry. "If you take it, you'll trade places. That's the rule. That's the price." My double's expression sharpened. "That's its version of the rule, not the truth." My legs trembled. I stood at the threshold of the motel, the open night stretching before me, cold wind brushing my face. Behind me was danger, ahead of me was escape, and between both, a choice. The key hovered inches from my hand. My double whispered, "Take your life." The whisper begged, "Run." The footsteps behind me thundered closer. My heart slammed against my ribs. And in that suspended moment, I realized whichever choice I made would finally end the hour that never ended.
For a moment, everything went silent. The flickering lights, the groaning beams, the dragging footsteps, all of it seemed to pause, suspended in a breath the world forgot to exhale. Just me, my double, the key. Its brass tag glinted faintly under the sick yellow lobby light. Room 6. My room. Their room. Whoever's room. "Choose," my double whispered, their voice a strangely gentle echo of my own. "I can't stand between hours forever." I felt something inside me twist. "Why does this place want me?" I asked, staring directly into their eyes. My eyes, but calmer, steadier, as if they remembered something I didn't. "It doesn't want you," my double said softly. "It wants completion." The whisper trembled through the walls. "Completion means replacement." My double didn't turn, didn't acknowledge the voice. "You were here once, long ago, long enough that the memory wore itself smooth inside your mind. You ran from the hour that tried to claim you. That's why your life has always felt half step out of rhythm. Haven't you noticed?" My throat tightened. My double's gaze softened. "You've always felt something missing, haven't you? A hollow you couldn't explain, a sense of time slipping, moments repeating, dreams looping. That wasn't you. It was here, calling you back." The whisper hissed in pain. "It's lying. Don't listen." But the way my double spoke, the certainty, felt like truth, or at least something close enough to sting. Behind me, the mirror creature had reached the bottom of the stairs. I could hear the warped dragging of its leg as it heaved itself forward, slow but unstoppable. "You don't have time," my double murmured, extending the key another inch. "Take back what's yours." "I don't know what's mine," I whispered. My double gave a faint, sad smile. Neither did I. The way they said it, soft, regretful, sent a chill crawling across my skin. I looked at the key, then at my double's hand, then toward the front door, the open night promising escape. I could just bolt. I could run into the night and never look back. But something held me in place, a question that had been echoing since the moment I first stepped into room 6. Who stayed? Turning away from the key, I asked the whisper, quietly, urgently, "What happened to the one who stayed in my place? Were they you?" The whisper's answer came trembling, like a voice cracking under its own weight. "I was a version, a fragment, a filler, something the hour created so it wouldn't collapse." My double let out a soft sigh. "There were 2 versions, one who left and one who remained to pay the debt." My pulse hammered. "Which one are you?" I whispered. The whisper responded first, raw, desperate, terrified. I'm the one who waited. I'm the one who took your place. I'm the one who stayed because you had to live. Then my double. And I am the one you were supposed to become. A tremor shook the floor. The mirror creature had reached the lobby doorway, its body contorting as it stepped into view. I had seconds left. My double leaned in. Take the key, and I'll take your incomplete reflection back. You'll leave whole. You'll forget this place again. The whisper cried out. If you take it, I become the hour. I become the one who decays. I stop being real. My double spoke gently. That's not real. That's a leftover echo clinging to a place it was never meant to be. The whisper screamed. I protected you. Somewhere deep in the building something cracked, sharp and final. The mirror creature shuddered as if electrified, and its hollow eyes focused on me again with a sudden terrifying clarity. I didn't have time. I had to choose. Take the key, or run, or something else entirely. And then a realization hit me so hard I almost staggered. No matter which I chose, someone would be trapped. Unless there was a third option. I stepped back from the key. My double's face flickered, confusion, then concern. What are you doing? They asked softly. I'm not taking it, I said. Not yet. The whisper gasped, hope faint but there. The mirror creature took a final dragging step toward me. My double's expression softened into something like disappointment. You can't leave without claiming an hour, they said quietly. You can't exist without one. My breath shook. I already have one. Both the whisper and my double froze. Even the mirror creature paused its advance. I swallowed hard, forcing the truth out. My hour isn't in that room. It isn't in this motel. It isn't in anything I left behind. I placed a hand over my chest. It's here, with me, right now. The life I've lived since I left, that's my hour. I'm not forfeiting it, not trading it, not rewriting it. The whisper let out a slow, trembling exhale. Relief, disbelief. My double stared at me with something unreadable. Then their expression shifted. Not anger, not fear. Something like admiration. You learned, finally. Behind me, the mirror creature let out a low, hollow keening, and its body began to destabilize, dissolving at the edges like smoke. The motel lights brightened. The floor stopped shaking. The walls exhaled. My double closed their hand around the key and stepped backward. You didn't choose either of us, they said softly. You chose yourself. I had to, I whispered. They nodded. And then they began to fade. Not violently, not painfully, like someone stepping out of an old photograph. As they disappeared, their last words drifted toward me. Go, and don't come back to this hour again. The whisper behind the wall spoke one final time, exhausted, grateful. Thank you for freeing me. And then the motel fell silent, completely. I turned toward the open door. Cold air swept in, crisp and clean. I stepped through it. Outside, the sky had changed, stars sharper, the night somehow lighter. The lot was empty, the sign dark, the building behind me still. I walked to my car, got in, and turned the key. As I pulled away, I looked once in the rearview mirror. The motel was gone. Not removed, not vanished. Just never there. I drove into the night, breathing deeper than I had in years. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole.
If you liked the story, subscribe and like it, and also write a comment about what topic you would like to hear about.